Well, to 10 Downing Street now, where earlier today Rishi Sunak called a snap election, telling Britons they'll be going to the polls on July the 4th. But Sunak's UK Conservative Party has a steep hill to climb if they expect to form government again. Trailing badly in the polls for over a year, the latest YouGov survey on May the 16th says the Tories only have 20% support of decided voters, while British Labour has 47%. Well, joining us now is Matthew Lebo, who's the chair of the Department of Political Science and a professor at Western University. Joins us right now in London. Matthew, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So Rishi Sunak, he did not have to call a vote until January of 2025. So why trigger a snap vote now? What is the path to victory that he's hoping to navigate here?
Well, probably there is no path to victory. The poll you showed, they are just so far behind that a Labour win is pretty inevitable. It's possible that things could get worse for the Conservative Party if they were to not call an election, or worse for the Prime Minister, such as a vote of no confidence being thrown out by the party or by the House as a whole. So it might be better just to do things faster to lose and perhaps keep the door open for a comeback in a few years as the leader of the Conservatives.
Okay, so trying to avoid something even worse. But, as we noted, the Conservative Party in the UK, they've been trailing Labour by about 20 points for some time now. Conservatives lost nearly half of all the council seats it was defending in local elections. That was just about 3 weeks ago. Given that kind of track record, has there been any historic example of a political party turning things around in the course of a campaign?
I can't think of anything that would come close to what would be required now from the Conservative Party. In 1992, the Conservatives under John Major were not expecting to win that election. They were maybe 6 or 7 points behind and pulled out a win to hang on another 5 years. I guess the best example I can think of would be in about 1988, where Michael Dukakis had about a 15-point lead in the summer over George H.W. Bush. And of course, that didn't last for very long. That was a huge comeback. But in sort of the polarized politics now and how long and steady that lead has been for Labour, that just doesn't seem possible this year.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned polarization, and that's interesting because last October, Sunak did give the speech at a Conservative Party gathering. And during that speech, he said that a man is a man, a woman is a woman, and, quote, we shouldn't get bullied into believing that people can be any sex they want to be. That makes me wonder how much of this campaign will be about social conservative values and whether a wedge issue like gender identity will actually play a role here.
I think so. And there's a new party in British politics. The UKIP party sort of evolved and now is the Reform Party. And they're polling at 10, 12, 14%. And probably a lot of that support is coming from former Conservative voters. And so the Conservative Party is sort of looking, well, where can we pick up a few votes? If we want to sort of narrow the gap between us and Labour, they're not looking at the middle, they're looking at the right. And that means issues like gender identity and putting those on the table and trying to get people to abandon a small fringe party. But that means also sort of incorporating some of those more fringe ideas into a mainstream party. And that can sort of be dangerous for what a party stands for and make a small minority have an outsized say in sort of the policy preferences of an entire larger party.
Mm-hmm. Now, Boris Johnson, he was quick to say that he'll be voting Conservative, and he hopes that other Britons will vote that as well. What role do you see Mr. Johnson playing in this campaign?
I imagine he'll be out in specific constituencies where he's popular. He still has a lot of popularity within the party, and they'll need to get all of their members out and trying to get out the vote, trying to remind Conservative voters or people who voted Conservative in the past, sort of the pro-Brexit ideas that were popular, and sort of some of the social issues that are unpopular, immigration issues that Johnson's popular on. So they'll probably use him. They need all the help they can get.
So the vote in the UK will happen on July the 4th. That will be followed by a vote in the US come November, presumably a Canadian vote in 2025. I'm wondering, from a political science point of view, what should strategists be looking for in the UK campaign when considering their own campaigns, for example, in this country?
Yeah, I think that, a common thread through the three countries and really democracies all over is that the fringe right is getting more organized, becoming a bigger part of politics. And sort of the mainstream parties have to think about how they can strategize to deal with that. So, for example, Pierre Poilievre is looking also at the right of Canadian politics and thinking, how do I strategize, and looking for, a few percent of the vote. Do I try and get those from the Liberal Party, from the People's Party? And in American politics, Donald Trump has made a habit of just catering to the far right of not just the Republican Party, but of American politics. And when party leaders from these large parties reach out to those fringes, it moves politics in that direction. It helps polarization, pulls parties away from sort of the middle of the spectrum, and ultimately can be dangerous for democracy when those fringes are sort of anti-democratic.
So a lot to watch as the UK gets ready for their polling day on July the 4th. Ahead of that, though, Matthew, thank you for this. Really appreciate the conversation this evening.
You're welcome.